For this lesson, we'll be doing Module 6, Lesson 6. We're going to start with the first question, which says, shade the area models to represent the number, drawing horizontal lines to make hundredths as needed. Locate the corresponding point on the number line, label with the point, and record the mixed number as a decimal. So, the first thing we're going to do is, we're not actually going to use the area model, because we're going to use a place value chart. So the first thing we're going to do is, we're going to write a place value chart down in this space we have here. So we have ones, our decimal point, tenths, and hundredths. So the number we have is 1 and 15 hundredths. So the first thing I'm going to do is, before I worry about really shifting anything, I'm just going to write that on my place value chart. So I'll draw my top line just to make it a little easier to see. So I have one whole, my decimal. Right now I don't have any tenths, so I'm going to leave it alone, but I have 15 hundredths. So I'm going to put it over there. Now, when I look at my hundredths, I notice that it's greater than 9 in that place value. We know that we can't have anything greater than 9, so we have to shift this one over here, and we'll cross it out. We've used it here. So now as a decimal, I have 1.15. So 1.15, I can go ahead and write it up top. So I've written it as a decimal. So now I look at my number line. The first thing I need to figure out is, what two whole numbers am I going to be between where I have 1 and 15 hundredths? So this 1 is very important. That tells us where we're going to start. So we know before we even look over that we're going to be between 1 and the whole number that's greater is 2. So it is 1.15, but when I look at my place value chart, I can look at it a different way. I can see that I have 1 ones, I have 1/10. So now I'm going to come over, I'm going to do this in a different color. So I'm going to come over to 1 and 1/10, so I know I'm here now. So I have 1/10, and I have 5 hundredths. So I know I'm going to be between these two spots right here. 5 hundredths, well 5 is right in the middle of those two. So I can come right here and put my point right here. So this point is 1.15, or you could say it as 1 and 15 hundredths if you wanted, or we could say it as 1, 1/10, and 5 hundredths. That would also work. So this is just a different way to really do the same thing. Now for the next one, it's actually given to us in words, which makes it much easier for us. So we're going to go ahead and fill in with the place value chart. So ones, tenths, hundredths. Now I just fill in what I have. Now the difference for this lesson is, before we really haven't had anything in the ones place, now we do. So my decimal point, again, I have 1 in the ones place. It doesn't say I have any tenths, so I'm going to skip over it for now, and I'm going to come and put a 2 in the hundredths. Now, I need to look at the hundredths place. I know I can't have anything greater than 9 in a place value. I look, 2 is not greater than 9. So now I'm kind of stuck. Now I haven't really ever done a question where I don't have anything in the tenths. But we know in math, if we have nothing or we don't have anything, we just put a 0. So 1, 2 hundredths is equal to 1.02. We could also write this, if we wanted, as the mixed number, as a whole number of 1. Now, when it comes to using the denominator, we're always going to read to the smallest denominator we have. We have tenths and we have hundredths. We have a 2 in the hundredths place, so we're going to need to use hundredths, and we can put a 2 up top. So I could also write it as 1 and 2 hundredths. Now, finally, for the last one, it's very similar to the one we just did in the last page. What I can actually do is, to make life easy, I only really need to draw one place value chart. So we have ones, my decimal point, tenths, hundredths. So I'm going to go ahead and set it up. So I have 2 ones and 27 hundredths. So 2 ones, decimal point, I'm going to leave that tenths place alone because I haven't used it yet. I'm going to put 27 in the hundredths place. Now I need to look at the hundredths place and see, do I have greater than 9 in that place value? I have 27, I do. So anything over here, I need to shift and move it over into the tenths place. So I've used this, so it's gone now. So how I could write this number is 2.2 in the tenths and 7 hundredths. So 2.27. If I wanted to write it as a mixed number, I would have 2 ones. Now again, it comes to using our denominator. We need to read to the smallest denominator that we have, which is hundredths. And now we actually almost are working backwards if we would think about our original question, because we now have taken that 2 and shifted it into the tens place. But how many hundredths did I really have? I had 27. So I could write it as 2 and 27 hundredths, or you could think about just reading everything to the right of the decimal. So if I was here, I would just read everything to the right of it. I wouldn't really worry about place value. I would just look and see what I have once I figured out my denominator, and I have 27 over here. Now, for the next one, we have 7 ones and 70 hundredths. So I did draw a line, so I can actually do it right in the same one for today. So I can put my 7 in the ones place. I can put my decimal point. I'm going to leave my tenths alone for now. And I'm going to come over to my hundredths and put my 70. Now I need to look. Do I have a number that is greater than 9? And I do. So I'm going to take everything over here, which is, this is really the tens place. In the number 70, where the 7 is, that would be the tens place. So I'm going to shift all that over here. So the 7 comes here, and I can cross it out. I've used it for now. So again, draw another line just to help keep it straight. I have 7.70. So 7 ones and 70 hundredths can be written as a decimal as 7.70. If we want to go a step further and see what it would be as a mixed number, we also could. We have 7 in the ones place. That's pretty easy. We would draw our line. Now, we would need to read to the smallest place value that we have. For this one, we could actually write it a couple different ways. If I look at the hundredths place, I have a 0. So I don't really need to write it there, but I could if I wanted. So I could look at the tenths place. I have a 7. So I could write this as 7 7/10. Or if I really wanted, I could look at my original one where I had 70 in the hundredths, or I could write it as 7 and 70 hundredths. Either would be fine. Both of those mixed numbers are equivalent. So again, the big thing we want to keep thinking about is use a place value chart. If there is nothing in there like we had with this one in the tenths place, just make sure you put a 0.